So, welcome. Today I want to ask you what type of cloud you are. It might sound a bit strange to you, this question, but that I will show you the types of clouds that are around. So basically, you have the Cybers cloud, Stratus cloud, you have the Altostratus cloud, you have the Stratocumulus cloud, etc. By now you might want to ask yourself if you are in the right presentation. We will not talk about climate clouds today, but just for the sake of curiosity, when I prepared this presentation, I was checking if somebody had already made the mapping between climate clouds and IT clouds, and of course, some very smart people have done that already. And you can have mapping between Cybers cloud, which is qualified as a test and development cloud. Don't ask me why. You have email, which is Status cloud, but we won't talk about this detail today. Just for the fun of it, I wanted to show that to you. So the question also I want to ask you, do you need a cloud? And in order to answer this question, we should first of all talk about the business challenges that the company encounters today. And I have listed some of these here. One being, I think every company encounters this challenge. There needs to be a short time to market in order to stay ahead of the competition. You need to have a better resource utilization. You need to become more efficient, basically. Then IT is unfortunately often a brake to change and is not an enabler for change. You need to continuously innovate, again, to stay ahead of the competition. You need to increase your productivity. And finally, you need to lower costs. I think these are all challenges we encounter in our respective companies. So, what does that mean for IT? IT means really you should enable your users and not block them. So you should be able to say yes to your users and not say no all the time. Be able to do more with less. Budgets in the IT world do not explode anymore, so you have a certain budget, maybe it stays the same, maybe it's cut, so you have to do more with less. You have to be very agile to follow the trends and to follow the business. And for sure you must be aligned with your business objectives. The business objectives of your companies are really important, to grow your company, and IT must be a support to that and not a blocking factor. Then there's security, of course, that is becoming more and more important. And finally, again, coming back to IT budgets, you have a certain budget, it does not grow anymore, so you want to innovate. How do you do that? Well, you need to find the funding through better efficiency in your IT operations. So far, so good. And I want to ask you another question. How is your relationship with your internal IT? Who is 100% happy of his internal IT? 1, 2 persons, 3. I won't ask the other question. However, what I've seen is this very often in companies, it's a situation of pure hate, and this has to change, otherwise the business will suffer. So if you have a look at the real world, just considering two categories of companies, you have the SMEs, you have the corporates. Basically, SMEs is defined by the European Commission as being a company with less than 250 people. So what are typically the challenges there? Well, I visit myself companies which had around 100 employees, and the problem was almost always the same, which was the IT department in such a company lacked the critical mass to provide a quality service. And sometimes this is what happens, so that's the IT room, and this is not exactly structured in the right way to support the business. Look at corporates, the situation is a bit different. In the corporate environment, usually you have a large IT which is probably very well structured, but it is too rigid to follow business needs. So it's a problem of flexibility. What does this lead us to? Well, very often it's frustration at the end user level, but also at the CIO level, because he does not have the means to provide the service he wants to give. And the real threat is that shadow IT is coming to a department near you. What's the shadow IT? I can give you an example. Lately, we made an RFP for upgrading a platform in our company, and from one of the suppliers I received an offer, and this was not a standard email or secured email, it was simply a link going to Dropbox, which I found a bit appalling, but this is really shadow IT. You know, if the IT department does not deliver what the business needs, users have a tendency to go and shop elsewhere. And this has a definite threat on security. This is a definite threat on security in a company, so it's not a good situation and it's difficult to handle. Now, is the cloud the solution to all of the IT problems? You think? I think no. However, can the cloud adoption lead to better IT service? Well, definitely yes. So, what are the options? Today I want to concentrate on infrastructure as a service, and not on the left-hand side, which is a private cloud run on the customer side, but I want to focus basically the right-hand side, which is cloud, which is provided by a service provider. Also, you have the public cloud, which has sometimes, difficult press because people are afraid of the security and of where the data are stored, etc. Then you have the virtual private cloud. Well, the virtual private cloud is more interesting because it gives you benefits really of the public cloud with the security that you need. So basically, in a public cloud, you will have containers or some secure cloud inside the public cloud which delivers the services you want for your company. And again, making a very simple classification of clouds, of infrastructure as a service cloud. So on the lower end, on the lower end, you have what I would call the self-service cloud, which is typically a VM that you can buy on the internet. It does not cost much, might be sufficient for you, but you don't get good SLA, or at least if you get an SLA, you don't have penalties. So it doesn't really matter if you have an SLA then. And on the other end of the spectrum, on the other side of the spectrum, you have the managed service cloud, which is a very high availability cloud with a layer of managed services, and you pay the price, of course. So what to choose? Well, sometimes there's also something that you can call the good enough cloud, which might be, for example, a self-service cloud with some managed services around it. Ultimately, it will be the choice of your company to select what you need. Then a word about clouds and outsourcing. Outsourcing is around for a very long time, and the cloud is a bit newer. But we have seen clearly that the cloud is the perfect tool to do outsourcing in an IT outsourcing project. Why? Because you can really benefit of a set of mutualized resources for your infrastructure. And that has not been the case before cloud was around. Now you can outsource your IT, including, the equipment. So you do not need to own equipment anymore. Finally, we come to the question of the day: what type of cloud are you? And it's all about defining already what you want. So, first question you need to ask yourself: do you want to do partial outsourcing, which is also called vertical outsourcing, or do you want to do full outsourcing, called also horizontal outsourcing? Then another question: what piece of infrastructure is well suited now for doing outsourcing? Is it storage? Is it telephony? Is it email? What is it? Or is it the whole of it? Then what are your business requirements? It was important because if you move to cloud, you want to improve your IT, and it should be better in line with your business needs. What are the constraints? Maybe you have some specific constraints. SLAs is key. Of course, what type of SLA do you need? Do you have a business that requires very high uptimes of your IT or not? There's the legal framework compliance which needs to be addressed. Not to forget, if you move to cloud, there's also transformation costs. So you eliminate some of your hardware and you put it into the cloud, this will have costs, so you need to know what it is about. Security requirements not to be neglected. You want to go for pay-as-you-go or flat fee. And is your network ready for the cloud? Because if you really outsource, for example, your whole IT department, probably connectivity over the internet will not do. So you need to be sure that you have the necessary lines in place to have a good availability also of the lines. It's a DC facilities network. You need to know, where do I want to go? Do I want to go to a cloud that has a very high availability on the paper, but on the other hand, it's a DC that is not very secure? Another question you should ask yourself. Then finally, are you ready for some real change? Because if you move to cloud, there's some change. It's a change for the better, but nevertheless, it is a change. As humans are resistant to change, you should really think about that. How does that apply in your company? And I want to give you return on experience, what we have seen on the market, selling clouds, providing clouds to our customers. So, in a nutshell, if we go to a company which has a large IT department, so normally it's a corporate type of environment, a couple of years ago, it was an absolute taboo to talk about outsourcing IT or infrastructure as a service, I mean, you couldn't mention it because you were thrown out immediately. And nowadays, they have become a bit more flexible, but more in a vertical way. That means some of the companies we have met, they have a tendency to use a self-service cloud, for example, buying VMs, on the internet, to do what? Well, for example, to do testing of a new business software. That is totally enough for them, and it's flexible, and it's enough, they do not have to buy new servers to that. They just go run it, and if they don't need it anymore, they don't run it anymore. So that's an option. Or another option for these type of departments is you do a vertical outsourcing of one concrete activity, for example, collaboration. So we have been talking to banks who wanted just to outsource their email because it was difficult to manage, many spam security issues, and there they wanted a fully managed service. This is what we have seen for large IT departments. And as a summary, for small IT departments, that means typically SMEs, well, they have a tendency to full outsource their IT. We have seen that for a number of customers already. People do not want to hassle anymore with IT. With CapEx, with a service that's not as high as they want it to be. They don't want to tackle with licensing issues, etc. So they just say, okay, we move our whole IT to the cloud, but in a managed service cloud. So not only buying VMs, but there's a provider there who takes the whole responsibility for them, for the IT department. And the cloud is the perfect tool to execute such an outsourcing policy. At the end, it's your decision what type of cloud you are, of course. But this is the discussion we have with our customers, and this is typically what happens. And just wanted to show you a user survey of IDC from this year, from 2013, and the good news is that really 40% of the companies that had been interviewed had a pleasant surprise moving to the cloud, and 40% saw expectations met, and only 20% were disappointed. So there's always room for improvement, but the bottom line is, cloud gives you satisfaction. Then, of course, you need to ask you also a couple of questions how to choose your cloud provider. For example, you probably want to know where your data are stored. Some companies don't care so much, but many companies we have met, they are concerned about where are my data stored, because really you trust into a provider, you have trust in a provider, you give them all your data, and probably you want to know where they are stored. Then another one is, well, what's the law governing my data in the country where my data are stored? What happens if a provider, I don't know, say Germany, you trust him all your data and the provider goes bust? What do you do? Can I still access my data or not? Important question. Then another one is, well, the cloud provider that you choose, did he have an IT expertise before he went into the cloud? We think this is also important because you do not want to be left alone in the cloud. Say you decide to move your IT to the cloud, there's an issue, there's nobody who takes the phone, there's no staff around to consult you, there's nobody really there on demand to help you with the IT issues. Then is the provider also telecom operator? Why is this important? Well, you can have the best cloud in the world with an uptime of 5 nines, but if the lines go down, you are in trouble. So we consult, of course, our customers to go to an cloud provider who gives you a guaranteed SLA on the whole service, including the telecom lines, so that you have one throat to choke. You do not have to hassle. If something goes wrong with the telecom operator, will say, it's not the lines, or you ask the cloud provider who will tell you, it's not me, it's the lines. So this needs to be avoided. And if you have one company who guarantees you the whole, that's the best way to go. Yeah, what's the availability? I mentioned that already. Is the availability in line with my business critical processes requirements? You need to check that. What's the financial situation of the provider? That's also quite important, because again, you trust in this provider, you give him all the data, they are stored somewhere in the data center. What if the provider goes bust? In trouble. So you want to know, what about the dollars behind the cloud provider that you choose? What's the strategy? Again, you want to know where this cloud provider goes to. What's the security engineering of the cloud? Also important, because you do not want to get less security, you want to get more security if you move to the cloud. Security expertise of the provider, that comes with the other point. And also, well, how can this provider consult me in the transformation project, but also later on if I have changing business requirements? Who is there for me? Is there a provider there who can also consult me to take the next steps to go to the next level? Then, key takeaways for me is really threefold. So you have, number one, good cloud can increase the motivation of your staff, because finally there's an IT that doesn't say no anymore. It's yes, because it has a very agile environment now to play with. Second one, well-managed cloud enables your business. Well-managed meaning to be designed in a way that can support your business objectives. It's to have the SLA you need, and in that case, it will be a support to your business and not a break anymore. Finally, all clouds are not equal. Choose your partners wisely. Then, few words about Telindus. Who are we, by the way? So we are a key player in Luxembourg. We have been here since '79. We are the leading cloud provider in Luxembourg. We are 350 people here, and we are present in 5 countries in Europe. Belgacom is our main shareholder. It's the incumbent operator in Belgium. We come really from systems integrator world. We have moved, going through outsourcing, to become a cloud and telecom operator. have a certain number of cloud products that we provide. uCloud is more like a self-service product, and we have desktop as a service product, we have communication as a service product, and we have a very high availability cloud which we call uFlex. These are our awards that we have been getting over the past years. Very proud about, and our network in Luxembourg. Then I want to say one word about international clouding. This is just an excerpt of a press release that was done in June by Belgacom, by our main shareholder. And it says that Belgacom and Numergy, which is a cloud provider in France, laid the basis for international expansion with the Cloud Team Alliance. So Belgacom is a founding member of the Cloud Team Alliance, and the idea behind is that you are able to offer to your customers cloud services all over Europe locally. So be ready for some good news also in this space, because I think it goes into the direction of what customers need and want today. And this concludes my presentation. Have any questions? Everything was crystal clear. Thank you.
I have one question for you, Mr. Ruckert. You mentioned the law, and you mentioned European examples and the Luxembourg example, Telindus. Where do you think the European law and the Luxembourg law, when it comes to cloud, are they different? And in which way, if any, is the Luxembourg law superior if I'm a cloud user or a company using cloud services from a Luxembourg operator?
That's a good question, Mr. Kammer, and I know you know the answer already. But no, I mean, there's a Luxembourg law, a very new law, that guarantees you access to your data in case a cloud provider has financial trouble. And I think in Luxembourg we are one of the first European companies to implement that. So that's a definite asset for Luxembourg and for choosing a cloud provider in Luxembourg versus other European countries.
It's working? Yeah. What is the mechanism that is in place to ensure that the customer still has access to the data in case of insolvency of the cloud provider? How does it happen? Who pays?
That's a very good question, which still needs to be addressed because this law is very new, yeah, I cannot give you an answer right now on that. But it has the merit to exist, and I think it's a really great thing for Luxembourg.